We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Russell. Russell says, after hearing our response to his question about building an infinite baffle sub in this 14,000 cubic foot room. This was a while ago, wasn't it? Was this a while ago?
A month or two back, something like that.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember. But
anyways, he's got a 14,000 foot cubic loft, open loft theater. He took some measurements with REW and a Dayton UMM6 microphone. Based on those, he decided to go ahead and build a dual 15-inch driver infinite baffle manifold to be installed on the front wall right under the right front speaker. Okay, so they'll be sort of on the right front speaker. All right. Once that is in place, he'll take some new REW measurements to determine where to install the second manifold. It will probably be in the left of the back wall diagonally from the front one. But since the room is in a loft, entirely open along one side to the rest of the house, he's not sure this really counts as opposite corners. Thoughts? You are so totally right, dude. It doesn't count.
it does not count as opposite corners.
Doesn't count. The sound does not care where you sit in relative to it. It cares where the edges of the room are. So, this is interesting. Like, okay, so he's gonna do this infinite baffle sub thing, which is fine. I got no problems with that. So, what's his solution if he wants to get a second subwoofer and do a second infinite baffle sub in there? Well, honestly, I think you should buy or borrow. Let's go with borrow a subwoofer from a friend. And if this means going on the forums and saying, hey, I live in such a city, I will pay you in beer if you come to my house and with your big old subwoofer.
Buy one from SVS and send it back.
I was trying not to say that because that's kind of a crappy thing to do. SVS will pay for shipping both ways on their subs, but you could order a sub from a friend to come and bring them over, whatever. I think 6-pack of beer is reasonable.
Because you're going to need a big sub to do this.
You're going to need a massive
bring over
sub.
A little dinky 6.5 inch from a home theater in a box. That's not going to do it.
And then literally, set that sub up, level match it with your other one, run Room EQ Wizard, and with your microphone and everything, take a measurement, and then start moving that sub around your room.
Yeah.
Around along that wall.
This size, it's gonna come down to trial and error. You really can't do the middle of your entire space on either end. Diagonally opposite corners would be diagonally opposite corners of the entire space, so that's probably also unlikely. So we can't really predict where is going to be the best place. Now, the good news is, with this much cubic footage and these kind of distances, you might have the one infinite baffle sub installed, get your measurements, and realize you don't have any gigantic dips. That is because it's
getting sucked out into the rest of the house.
Like you actually just have enough space that you're not forming a lot of standing waves in there because you just have a very large physical space. So that might turn out to be the situation. We can cross our fingers that it is, but otherwise you basically have to trial and error it as to the position of that second sub. Yeah, and
that's kind of where infinite baffle subs kind of shine. If you have a humongous space, then you can place that in there, and then the base isn't bouncing around this small room. What more likely happens is somebody decides they want a lot of bass, so they take and they build an infinite baffle sub in their normal size theater. And it just
you still have all the standing wave problems, but now you can't move your sub.
Now you can't move your sub. So if you're going to want to put a second sub for evener bass, which you may or may not need, like Rob said, then I think it's a trial and error. The way to do it is to get a physical sub where you can test it in multiple locations, and that's your best bet.
And then once you find the location, then you could build the other infinite baffle sub there.
Yes.
We're not saying don't make a second one, but just you have to be able to move that second one around.
Yeah. And that's why I say borrow and not, stick it to SVS, because they're nice people over there. Don't make them pay for your testing. If you do, at least buy something from them. He's satisfied with the placement of the in-wall mains and center he inherited from the previous owner, but he's not happy with the placement of the surround speakers. They're about 10 feet in the air on a sloped ceiling, with one basically centered on the TV, another one about 15 feet off to one side. I have no idea what that means, but
I'm pretty sure they were
that's
set up as just like in-ceiling speakers for the whole space and weren't meant specifically for the theater. Yeah.
So he says since his Denon X1300 will support Atmos 5.1.2, he's thinking about buying a couple of bookshelf speakers that he can put on end tables at each end of the main listening couch, or maybe on stands. And then convert the existing ceiling wall-mounted speakers to Atmos duties. Though he's probably need to relocate the one off to the side closer to the center. So this does sound like a reasonable plan. Well, I think it's a reasonable plan not to use those in-ceiling speakers for surrounds.
Yes,
like for sure. So that's
it sounds
good.
like you're going to need to move both of them though.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like either one of those speakers is. Now remember, your Atmos speakers are supposed to be in line with your mains.
That's right.
Right? They're supposed to be in line with your mains. So if they're not in line with your mains, they're in the wrong place.
I mean,
so if you can move
and again,
both
that's
of
not
them,
super strict. Like if they're a little bit narrower than your mains, a little bit wider than your main, totally fine.
But this doesn't sound like that. It sounds like one's like smack dab in the middle and one's way off to one side.
It sounds like you need to move both of those.
Yeah. So you want to try to line them up with your mains as best you can.
Yeah.
And then you can use them as Atmos speakers. But his mains are in wall. Okay, in wall. I thought they were in ceiling.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then I would definitely bookshelf speakers to the side of the couch. That thumbs up on that one. Okay. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.